Can you please read Joshua 18 verse 1? Brother Jose?
And the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh and set up the tabernacle of the congregation there.
Okay. And also the Review and Herald?
It says, the land to which we are traveling is in every sense far more attractive than was the land of Canaan to the children of Israel. They were led by the hand of God. Christ himself gave them a description of the country in which they were to find a home, for he wished to place before them every incentive to press on with hope and courage. They had need of courage and constant faith.
Okay. So this whole lesson, we will learn about how Caleb's faith and courage let them inherit the land that God has promised them. So Sunday, we have 5 subtopics: a man of courage. Number 2 is the faith of an aged warrior. Number 3, faith that works. Number 4, sharing burdens and unity. And number 5, a new headquarters. So our first title would be a man of courage. Letter A. Before the land was distributed, how did Caleb testify of his experience from 40 years prior? And how had he shown courage before? So what can we read Joshua 14 verse 6 to 9? Brother Javier?
Okay, let me read the 6 from verse 9. From verse 6 to verse 9. Then the children of Judah came unto Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said unto him, Thou knowest the thing that the Lord said unto Moses, the man of God, concerning me and thee in Kadesh Barnea. 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. And I brought him word again as it was in mine heart. Nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt. But I wholly followed the Lord my God. And Moses swore on that day, saying, Surely the land whereon thy feet hath trodden shall be thine inheritance, and thy children's forever, because thou hast wholly followed the Lord my God. So, before the land was distributed, how did Caleb testify of his experience from 40 years prior? He said, he told his experience, what happened, how he faithfully followed, God's command through Moses. And when he came back, he gave a good report, because he was faithful, and he and against the rest of the spies that they were just bringing discourage to others, right? Saying that they saw giants, and it's hard to conquer those people.
Okay. So, yes, so 40 years prior to that moment, Moses already told Caleb that they will inherit the land of Canaan because it is already promised by God. And how had he shown courage before? So, because Caleb that time is already 80 years old, right? So, he had shown courage for almost 40 years that they will inherit the land promised by God. So letter B, what can we learn from God's promise to Caleb? Numbers 14 verse 22 to 24. Can you please read it, Brother Daniel?
Because of all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now, these 10 times, and have not hearkened unto my voice. Surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoke me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him, and had followed me fully, him will I bring into the land whereinto he went, and his seed shall possess it.
So yeah, what can we learn from God's promise to Caleb?
Well, it was definitely fulfilled. Caleb was one of the two that spent the whole 40 years in the wilderness and was able to go into the promised land. Unlike the rest of practically the whole
Congregation.
The whole congregation, yes. So once more, the promise was fulfilled to Caleb.
Okay. So I would also like to read our note. It says here, our work is aggressive. Something must be done to warn the world, and let no voice be heard that will encourage selfish interests to the neglect of missionary fields. We must engage in the work with heart and soul and voice. Both mental and physical powers must be aroused. All heaven is interested in our works, and angels of God are ashamed of our weak efforts. So, like Caleb, we need to stand faithful to God, that we will go to the promised land, which is the heavenward. So, as a Christian, we need to stand and do the missionary work until God's second return. So now let's go on to our second topic, the fate of an aged warrior. Letter A, what refreshing request did 85-year-old Caleb make? Joshua 14 verse 10 to 12. And how is his amazing courage and trust in God inspiring to us? So can you please read Joshua 14:10 to 12? Sister Susanna?
And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, even since the Lord spake this word unto Moses, while the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now, lo, I am this day 85 years old. Yes, as I am strong this day, as I was in that day that Moses sent me, as my strength was then, even so, my strength now for war, both to go out and to come in. Now, therefore, give me this mountain, where the Lord spake in that day, for thou heardest in that day how the Anakims were there, and that the cities were great and fenced. If so be the Lord will be with me, then I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said. So even in his age, he tells the story. The long time ago, he's still enough brave, and it's like a motivation words from experience person, old, wise person. So we know that we cannot be freaking out if we know that Lord is on our side. With Lord, we can do everything.
Yes. Thank you, Sister Sana. And again, what refreshing request did he make? He wanted to conquer the Hebron city. And you know what? That Hebron is the largest city in the West Bank today and second largest in Palestinian territory. So this part of the land is fertile. It has the grapes, figs, limestone, so it's very fruitful. And in Joshua's time, it was originally the royal city of Canaanite. And so you see, the courage of Caleb presenting this request to own this land is really remarkable, because his unswerving faith with God that they will conquer that land, considering the fact that there are three giants that are ruling that Hebron city. So this is really amazing that he has that kind of courage and faithfulness to God. So I want to also read the note. This is page 53. It says here, we want Caleb's now who will press to the front, chieftains in Israel who with courageous words will make a strong report in favor of immediate action. When the selfish, ease-loving, panic-stricken people, fearing tall giants and inaccessible walls, clamor for retreat, let the voice of the Calebs be heard, even though the cowardly ones stand with stones in their hands, ready to beat them down for their faithful testimony. So, like in our time now, we have the trials and problems in our life, but we need to stand firm, like Caleb, and voice it out to others also and give them courage. Any final thoughts for letter A? If not, let's go to letter B. How was Caleb's faithful claim blessed? Joshua 14 verse 13 to 15. Can you please read it, Brother Javier? Or letter B, Monday. It's right on screen.
And Joshua blessed him and gave unto Caleb the son of Jephunneh
Yeah, Jephunneh, Hebron.
Hebron from
Inheritance.
inherit Hebron, therefore becomes the inheritance of Caleb the son of Jephunneh, and can he say unto this day, because that he would follow the Lord God of Israel, and the name of the Hebron before Kirahara, I don't know, and a great man among the Anakites, and the land had rest from war.
Okay, thank you, Brother Javier. So how was Caleb's faithful claim blessed? It is blessed because, to make the story short, they conquered the Hebron. And to think again, I said the Hebron city is ruled by three giants, namely Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai. So see, they claim it, the Caleb's claim it already that God will give it to them, and then they conquered that city. So I would like to read the note. It says here, amid all hardships, perils, and plagues of the desert wanderings, and during the years of warfare since entering Canaan, the Lord had preserved him. And now at upwards of 80 his vigor was unabated. He did not ask for himself a land already conquered, but the place which above all others the spies had thought it is impossible to subdue. By the help of God, he would wrest his stronghold from the very giants whose power had staggered the fate of Israel. It was no desire for honor or aggrandizement that prompted Caleb's request. The brave old warrior was desirous of giving to the people an example that would honor God and encourage the tribes fully to subdue the land which their fathers had deemed unconquerable. So, this serves as an inspiration to us all. We need to be like Caleb, who is firm, loyal, and faithful to God, that he will keep his promise. So, any final thoughts for this?
Yeah, the only thing is that God fulfilled his promise, to the faithful ones, and Caleb was one of them who he was promised, as you mentioned, it was a big, important land, that it was fruitful. So that's what we see. And then he told the others by experience. He gave his testimony, to follow the Lord's commands.
Thank you. Any more else? Okay. Yes, Brother Dean.
One of the things that we should note was that the courage that he have shown, not only when he was sent as a spy when he was about 45 years old, but then later on he was 85 years old, and still he had that desire for the battle, just because of the Lord have given him the order, and he didn't back up. He just said, he was praising the Lord because he mentioned that he had been as strong as when he was 40 years old. Yes. And he didn't ask for a land that had been already conquered. Actually, he asked to be given the land that they thought there were giants and big walls, and he wanted to conquer it.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, to have the courage to go forward with the message.
So he conquered the impossible to be conquered, in short. Yeah. And it says, I would also like to again read here. He said, he made no complaint of everything, but exalted the mercy of God that had preserved him in the wilderness. So that's how Caleb's faith is with God. He didn't see all the hardships, but instead look on the brighter side that God is telling them. Okay. So now let's go on to Tuesday, faith that works. Explain how Caleb's courageous faith was demonstrated and works even in his old age. Can you please read Joshua 15:13 and 14? Sister Abby? Okay, sister. Yeah.
He gave a part among the children of Judah according to the commandment of the Lord to Joshua, even the city of Arba, the father of Anak, which city is Hebron. And Caleb drove thence the three sons of Anak, Sheshai and Heman, and Talmai, the son of Anak. The children of Anak.
Okay. So explain how Caleb's courageous faith was demonstrated and works even in his old age. Yes, brother.
Yes, I believe that, Caleb saw the promise received, but he not just stayed quiet, but his faith worked, because he drove those sons of Anak, right? And those the names are there. So he advanced, what God gave him, the lands, so to have his nation blessed. Many people think, they were, also aggressive or bad to others. But no, that was the fulfillment of God's, what he saw, that those people who lived before, they were, over excessed on their sins, and God has a limit. So he, used his people to conquer those things, because he had plans for, to be, them to be a nation where, the truth was going to be spread to others, the worship of the true God.
Yes. Because it says here in the note, he did not settle down to enjoy his inheritance, but pushed on to further conquest for the benefit of the nation and the glory of God. So that's how Caleb's courageous faith has seen in this kind of story. So any final words for letter A? Okay, if not, let's go into letter B. Explain the difference in outcome between the experience of Joshua and Caleb versus that of the unbelieving spies. Numbers 14 verse 30 to 32 and 1 Corinthians 10 verse 5. Can you please read it, Sister Abby?
Doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. But your little ones, which ye said should be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which ye have despised. But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in this wilderness.
So, explain the difference in outcome between the experience of Joshua and Caleb. Yes, Brother Jose?
Well, also 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 5 says that, but with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. So that was the difference. Joshua and Caleb were faithful to God, but the other ones, the other unbelieving spies spread all this discouragement to others. So, and then they followed the negative, way, the weakness, instead of believing God, what, these two spies were commanded to go, and they brought the report. They encouraged the other people. No, God said that we're going to conquer those things, but they were in opposition to those spies. So what happened is God, they didn't see the promised land, actually.
Yes,
they died in
they
the
didn't.
wilderness.
Yeah.
May God help us also that in this each land of wilderness that we're going through, grasp God's promises and produce in our hearts the faithfulness to believe and to advance for the Lord.
Okay, thank you, Brother Jose. So, again, they think that it is really impossible to conquer that land, and so they didn't have it. But then again, those who trusted in God, looking not so much to the difficulties to be encountered as to the strength of their Almighty Helper, entered the goodly land. So those only who trust faithfully to God that they will have it, they are the ones who have the land of Canaan, the promised land. Any final thoughts for this question? If not, let's go to letter C. What does God want us to realize about the power of faith? 1 John 5 verse 4. Can you please read it?
For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith.
Okay.
So, faith. That's the idea.
Okay. So what does God want us to realize about the power of faith? So through faith, we can be victorious. Even though we are weak, by faith, we will become strong. So in our time right now, those giants that seems to be really impossible to subdue represents our trials, our hardships, our problems in life, those temptations that comes to us every day, our weak, sinful self. If we do not have that true, genuine faith that Caleb has, by the help of God, we will endure all those things, all those giants in our life, and we will be victorious by the help of God. So I would like to read the note. All things are possible to him that believeth, And whatsoever things we desire, when we pray, if we believe that we receive them, we shall have them. So we need to have the courage and faith that God will help us. So this faith will penetrate the darkest cloud and bring rays of light and hope to the drooping, desponding soul. It is the absence of this faith and trust which brings perplexity, distressing fears, and surmising of evil. God will do great things for his people when they put their entire trust in him. So we need to bring all our trust in the Lord so that God will help us in every step of the way.
Amen.
So any final thoughts for faith that works? If not, let's go on to Wednesday. Sharing burdens and unity. Letter A. Which tribes were located on the east side of the Jordan? And letter B. On the west side of Jordan. So to view the division of the Canaan among the 12 tribes, see a Bible map. If you have your Bibles with you, you can look on the back part to see the Bible map. So I would also like to call on Brother Jose to read Numbers 34, 14 and 15, and Joshua 13, verse 7 and 8.
It says, verse 14, for the tribe of the children of Reuben, according to the house of their fathers, and the tribe of the children of Gad, according to the house of their fathers, have received their inheritance, and half the tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance. The two tribes and the half tribe have received their inheritance of this side Jordan, near Jericho, eastward, toward the sun rising. Now, we see in Joshua, verse 13, verse 7 and 8, now therefore divide this land for an inheritance unto the 9 tribes, and the half tribe of Manasseh, with whom the Reubenites and the Gadites have received their inheritance, which Moses gave them, beyond Jordan eastward, even as Moses the servant of the Lord gave them.
Okay, thank you, brother. So which tribes were located on the east side? Because if you have the picture, but it's kind of small. So on the east side, there is the half of Manasseh tribe, and then Reuben and Gad. And then on the west, it's their the half of Manasseh tribe, the tribe of Dan and Ephraim. So that is where the tribes were. So I would like to read the note. The obligation had been faithfully discharged when the 10 tribes entered Canaan. 40,000 of the children of Reuben and the children of Gad, and the half the tribe of Manasseh, prepared for war, passed over before the Lord unto battle to the plains of Jericho. Okay. So letter B. Where was the headquarters of the nation? Joshua 4 verse 19 and Joshua 10 verse 6, first part. Can you please read it, Sister Susanna?
And the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month and encamped in Gilgal in the east border of Jericho.
Okay, thank you. So where was the headquarters of the nation? So where is it? At Gilgal. Okay. So it says here, Joshua circumcised the children of Israel, and the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal and kept the Passover. So that is the headquarters of the whole nation. Okay. Now let's go on to number 5, page 56. A new headquarters. Letter A. After the claim of Joseph's children had been settled, to where was the tabernacle moved? So first it was on Gilgal, and then it moved. What can we read Joshua 18 verse 1 and 10? Brother Daniel, please. Joshua 18 verse 1 and 10.
Joshua 18. Yeah. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh and set up the tabernacle of the congregation there. And the land was subdued before them. So that was, I guess, the headquarters. And then verse number 10. And Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before the Lord. And there Joshua divided the land unto the children of Israel according to their divisions.
Okay. So after the claim of Joseph's children had been settled, to where was the tabernacle moved? Yes, Brother Javier? It moved where? At Shiloh. Okay. So why and how long was it there? Why is it that the headquarters moved to Shiloh? Yes, Brother June, please. Okay. So how long was it there? It was there for 300 years. So it says in the note, the ark remained at Shiloh for 300 years until, because of the sins of Eli's house, it fell into the hands of the Philistines and Shiloh was ruined. The ark was never returned to the tabernacle here. The sanctuary service was finally transferred to the temple at Jerusalem. So that's it. Letter B. What valuable practice was later instituted at Shiloh? Judges 21 verse 19. Can you please read it, brother?
Then they said, Behold, there is a feast of the Lord in Shiloh, yearly in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goeth up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebanon.
Okay. So what valuable practice was later instituted at Shiloh? They have the yearly feast of the Lord. Yes, Brother Daniel?
When they were in the wilderness, they committed sin. So God forbid them to continue practicing the Passover. And it's in the book Pictures and Kings. It's only one quotation. When they entered into the promised land, what we're reading, that's the reinstitution, that they start celebrating it again. But for many years, God did not allow them to continue practicing those feasts.
Thank you. So they continued to practice the Passover, because it says here in education, as they journeyed, the experiences of the past, the stories that both old and young still love so well, were recounted to the Hebrew children. The songs that had cheered the wilderness wandering were sung. God's commandments were chanted and bound up with the blessed influence of nature and of kindly human association. So that is what they practiced yearly. Yes, Brother Daniel.
I don't know if all the feasts were prohibited to celebrate it, but I remember Patriarchs and Kings that it says the Passover. But they had three feasts.
Yeah.
Actually, until they entered the Promised Land, that's when they were ordered to go 3 times a year to Jerusalem, which is what you read it in the last portion of the last paragraph. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you, brother. So, that ends up our lesson study for this week, the early life in Canaan. Any final thoughts for our lesson this week? Okay. If not, thank you to everyone who participated in our Sabbath school lesson this morning. So before we end our Sabbath school, let's collect our offerings this morning. So after this Sabbath school, we will have our second service or divine service at 11. Thank you. Take now my hand, O Father, and lead on me until my journey ends eternally. Alone I will not wander once in God's day. Lead on my true compassion and with me stay. Oh, cover with thy mercy my poor weak heart. Let every thought rebellious from me depart. Bear me thy chosen linger in thy feet, and blindly trust thy goodness with grace complete. Through love of thy great power may move my soul. With thee through light and darkness I reach the goal. Take then my hands, O Father, and lead to me until my journey ends eternally. For a closing prayer, may I call on Sister Abby to lead it?